Good morning, Dr. Go, Ms. Samantha, and all of my fellow classmates. Today I'm going to present my final project assignments about the importance of doing urban house gardening in the urban area. So as you can see here on the picture, it illustrates how the urban area currently become very densely populated. The land area covered by cities covers about 5% of the planet. Fully half of the world's population now live in the urban areas. The world's population is becoming even more urbanized, causing environmental pressures, not the least of which is the deterioration of air quality in many of the most rapidly growing cities. Therefore, air pollution is a common phenomenon in urban areas. People have generated air pollutants, gases, and particulate material added to the atmosphere that can affect climate or harm people or other organisms. Across the world, city air is often thick with exhaust fumes, factory smoke, or soot from coal-burning power plants. One of the important elements in the sustainability of this ecosystem is the existence of plants and the biodiversity. As we know, plants have many benefits for us, one of which is providing better air quality. Besides that, it's very rare for us to see people in the urban areas doing gardening. However, doing urban house gardening is actually a good option to consider since it can help people to get a better environment and better air quality. Urban house gardening is basically the process of growing plants of all types and varieties in an urban environment. This type of home gardening is a good option for people who live in the urban area since it doesn't require a lot of space as what it might be one of their concern. They can creatively design their own home garden with vertical plantations or even hang it on their balcony. Not only beautify their home, doing urban gardening also provide people with various benefits such as improved indoor air quality, reduce stress, increase productivity, and also add green spaces to the cities. In accordance with the topic that I choose, which is the importance of doing urban house gardening in urban areas, having a flower pot will be a good step for people to begin the practice of home gardening. So in this project, I will make a modular flower pot from recycled materials that can be useful for people who live in the urban areas. So for the ideation part, here are some of my sketches for the designs of the flower pot. After I go through some sketches, I end up choosing the last one. Actually, this last sketch was inspired by the third and fourth sketches. So the idea here is to make the flower pot customizable, or in other words, it can be stacked both vertically and horizontally. So with only two modules, which are the rectangular flower pot and the plus shape connector, the flower pot can be stacked either vertically or horizontally depending on the user's preference. Next, I also did some research and analysis about modular design, sustainable materials, competitor product analysis, whole system, and life cycle thinking. So modular design, or also known as modularity in design, is a design principle that is used to create a full product by integrating or combining smaller, independent elements called modules. There are 6 types of modular design as what can be seen from the diagram here, but in my case, for the stackable flower pot, it comes under the sectional modularity. Sectional modularity is about connecting modules together themselves via a standard interface without the need for a separate linkage system. The simple example of sectional modularity are the Lego blocks and sectional sofa. And then for the relevant sustainable materials, in this project I use HDPE, which stands for High Density Polyethylene. It is a polyethylene thermoplastic made from petroleum. HDPE is commonly recycled and made into composite wood or plastic lumber. It is type 2 plastic, which commonly used in making containers for milk, motor oil, shampoos and conditioners, and so on. It is also known for its large strength to density and can withstand maximum stress. And then for the technology, there are some tools that I use in this project, such as oven to melt the plastic, and then angle grinder, chisel, and drill for the cutting process. In terms of mass production, we can consider to use rather to shred the plastic waste into smaller flakes, then extrusion machine to extrude recycled plastic into a mold, and the sheet press to press plastic into recycled sheets. Next is about competitor product analysis. So in this analysis, I compared my product with the other 3 competitors. The head-to-head competitor of my product is 3x3 modular flower pot by Chu Tang Plastics. The first tier competitor is High Flower Pot with saucer, and my second tier competitor is Samrudi Plastic Bucket. So the reason why I put a plastic bucket here as my competitor, because there are some people considered to use a bucket if they don't have any container to grow their plants. So the strength of my product are it is customizable, meaning that it can be stacked both horizontally and vertically. Then it has effective module because I only use 2 modules here, and it also recyclable. However, my product doesn't provide various functions, meaning that it only can be used for growing plants. Well, the competitors also have some pros and cons as what can be seen on the table here. And this is the continuation from the previous slide. So here I divided into some criteria to consider, such as the design, the module, and the functions. Next is the whole system thinking of my product. So started with the flower pot here. After the user got the flower pot, they will start to plant. They can plant it indoor or outdoor. And then the plants then will need potting soil, water, amount of light, fertilizer, and so on, so the plants can grow. If let's say the plants outgrow, it means the user need to transplant it to the larger pot, which means the old pot can be reused and the cycle is repeat. However, let's say the user want to grow more plants or other type of plants, they can add more modules, which are the flower pot and the connector, and they can choose whether to stack it vertically or horizontally. Last but not least, if there are other factors that make the flower pot broken, the flower pot will either end up in the landfill or being recycled. It depends on the user's preference. Next is the life cycle thinking of the stackable flower pot. So it started with the material extraction, which is plastic, or in more specific HDPE plastic. So from the plastic waste, it needs to be shreds into smaller flakes that ready to be recycled. And then it comes to manufacturing, which include melting, cutting, and finishing process. And then it being packaged and transport. After that, it comes to the use and maintenance. So flower pot is considered a passive product, meaning that it doesn't need any extra inputs throughout their life. It often has lower use space impacts. After that, it comes into the end of life. So the same piece of plastic can only be recycled about 2 until 3 times before its quality decreases to the point where it can no longer be used. And then it goes back to the material extraction and the cycle will repeat. Next is my experimentation on making the stackable flower pot. So before starting with the plastic melting process, I made the prototype first using cardboard to give more clearance about the design and the practicality of making the actual product. Then after I collect some plastic, I tried to experimenting with small amount of plastic first to see which one works best for me. Here I tried melting PET, HDPE, and PP plastic, and I end up choosing HDPE because I feel it is easier to control compared to the other types. After that, I prepare melting the actual product. So here is the tools and materials that I use. I use mold release wax to prevent the plastic stick to the mold, synthetic glove, custom-made mold, and of course HDPE plastic. And here I put the video of my experimentation. So here how it looks after it being taken out from the oven. Then after I leave it overnight, I remove it from the mold. And this is how it looks after cutting and sanding process. Here is the physical prototype. This is how it looks when it's stacked vertically, and this is how it looks when it's stacked horizontally. This is another picture of the flower pot with the plants. And I also made the digital prototype here. I think that's all for me. Thank you.